At this point, I would like to say a word about gospel preaching. Everything in the Christian field, including gospel preaching, has been damaged by the poor practice of the past centuries. The real gospel preaching is not only an outward work. Real gospel preaching is fruit bearing out of the overflow of the inner life. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Lord Jesus said to go, preach the gospel, and disciple the nations. But in John, he said that we must bear fruit. Preaching is one thing, fruit bearing is another thing. Genuine gospel preaching is not to convince people doctrinally, to subdue their thinking and change their concept. Genuine gospel preaching is to minister life to others. Fruit bearing is the outflow of the riches of the inner life. Look at the branch of a tree filled with the life juice. The branch has the overflow of life, and this overflow produces fruit. Fruit is the issue of the inner riches of life. We must realize that gospel preaching should be fruit bearing, and that fruit bearing comes from God's blessing. Although we need to pray for the gospel preaching, it is not simply a matter of our endeavoring. We must have God's blessing. If a church wants to increase, the gospel certainly must be preached. However, if the preaching of the gospel is not under God's blessing, nothing will be gained regardless of how much we endeavor. The fruit grained will not have human faces, but scorpion faces. You may bring in many people, but when God looks at them, he will say, this is a scorpion, that is a serpent, and that is a frog. Yes, you brought in many people, but not many with a proper face expressing God. What kind of person are you going to bring in? People with the faces of scorpions, or people with beautiful faces expressing God himself? The fruit you bear is an expression of what you are. If you are an apple tree, you can never bear oranges. If you are a peach tree, you can never bear bananas. If you are going to produce bananas, you must be a banana tree. If you are a tree of knowledge, don't expect to bear fruit of life. Only the tree of life can produce the fruit of life. We all must endeavor to preach the gospel. But consider what we are. If we are in the image of God, and if we have the dominion of God, we will surely bring others into the image of God and dominion of God. All the local churches need the increase, but never use gimmicks, which may produce Moabites instead of the proper fruit. God promised Abraham a seed. God was testing Abraham until Abraham's natural energy was terminated. Then he would give him a seed. While Abraham was under God's testing, his wife came in with a good proposal. It worked, but it did not bring forth Isaac, whom God wanted, but Ishmael, whom God rejected. In English letters, both Isaac and Ishmael start with is. They are very much alike. All the churches need the increase, but don't imitate Sarah. Don't produce Ishmaelites.